Alright, we're going to do the front brakes on a 5th generation Honda Civic. First thing we'll do is apply the parking brake, then jack the car up just enough to remove the weight from the front wheel. Then we'll brake the 4 lug nuts free with a breaker bar, and we'll go ahead and jack the car up the rest of the way. Now once the car is jacked up the rest of the way, go ahead and stick a jack stand underneath and just gently lower the car back down on that jack stand. Make sure to chock your wheels. Once the car is nice and secure, you can go ahead and remove the 4 lug nuts and the front wheel. Okay, once the wheel's off, you can remove the 2 rotor set screws. Make sure you use a number 3 Phillips bit. These things can strip out pretty easy. Then break free and remove the 2 17mm caliper bracket bolts. With the caliper bolts removed, you'll be able to pull the caliper and the rotor off. Once you have access to that caliper, go ahead and remove the outside brake pad. Leave the inside brake pad in, you'll need it later. Use some wire or string to tether the caliper to the upper control arm. That will relieve the weight that's being put on the brake line. Okay, open the box to your new rotors and do a quick comparison to make sure it's the same part that you just took off. Sometimes the parts store won't give you the right part. Let's make sure you have the right thing. Once you confirm that, go ahead and use some brake cleaner or some carb cleaner to clean the oily film off of the rotor. Now with a nice clean rotor, you can go ahead and install that rotor. I will put the 2 set screws back in. Make sure you use some anti-seize, or in this case I'm putting on some brake lube. I didn't happen to have any anti-seize laying around. Okay, before we can reinstall the caliper, we've got to compress the caliper piston. That's why we left the inside brake pad in. We're going to use a C-clamp to compress that piston and then go ahead and remove the inner brake pad. Before we install the new pads, we want to apply some brake lube to all the points on the caliper that make contact with the pads. Once you have all of those points lubed up, go ahead and grab your new pads and install them.
Including a short-term closure, one day after Pyongyang announced it would restart its
With the new pads installed, go ahead and press that caliper back onto the rotor and hand tighten the 17mm caliper bracket bolts. Torque those bracket bolts on. Reinstall the front wheel, hand tighten the 4 lug bolts. Once those are hand tightened, raise the car enough so that you can get the jack stand out from underneath. Now lower the car just enough to put pressure on the front wheel and use a breaker bar to tighten the 4 lug nuts.